Well, hi, everybody, and welcome to another MACS live chat. My name is Steve Schaeber, and I'm the manager of service training for MACS Worldwide, the Mobile Air Conditioning Society. Joining me today is Aaron Becker, president at AirSept Incorporated in Atlanta, Georgia. AirSept is a Tier 1 supplier to many of the world's major vehicle OEMs, providing a wide variety of air conditioning solutions to the industry. They're probably most well known for their Line Splice and Recycle Guard product lines. Aaron is also regularly involved with SAE, the Society of Automotive Engineers, and volunteers as a lead sponsor working on standards for the Interior Climate Control Standards Committees. He's also a member of MACS in the manufacturing section. Aaron, welcome.
Thanks, Steve. It's a pleasure to be here.
So when we first talked about doing this interview, I was working on an upcoming MACS service report that deals with auto repair and COVID-19. And I wanted to find out about your cleaning products, which is, from what I understand, is really how AirSept got its name originally back in 1989. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so AirSept started out as a chemical company, and our very first product was a product that killed, which we still sell today, is a product that kills mold and mildew in the air conditioning system and prevents the growth and regrowth of that mold and mildew for up to 3 years. Over the years, the use of that product has expanded. It is used as a metal coating to help shed water, extend the life of metal parts, extend the life of the evaporators in an HVAC system. It is proven to kill mold, mildew, bacteria, viruses, and a variety of different microorganisms. We've expanded out on our chemical line since then. We now offer sanitizers for the AC system, interior odor abatement products, so odor treatments for inside of the vehicle also. Plus, about 15 years ago, we expanded from chemicals into hard parts, which, as you mentioned, we now carry the Smart Splice Line Splice product line, the Recycle Guard product lines, and the items such as Compressor Guard.
So your evaporator cleaner product, that's been tested on bacteria and molds and some viruses, but I would imagine that since COVID-19 is so new, it hasn't been tested on that yet.
That is correct. We have not tested against COVID-19, and we do not make any claims that our products eliminate COVID-19.
And you know, the reason I was first contacting you about this, not just because you guys make the product, but because in my research for the MSR, there's some products out there already that are claiming to be certified for removing COVID-19 from vehicle interiors. But I don't know how they got the COVID-19 to test against. It's only been a month, and they're already claiming that this stuff works.
So the EPA does have if you can work on these subsets of viruses, then you can claim that you can kill COVID-19, although it hasn't necessarily been tested against COVID-19. One of the issues on a lot of the products out there is that they are not even EPA registered, or a lot of companies are taking an EPA registered product, marketing it incorrectly, and taking a hard surface sanitizer and marketing it as an interior vehicle sanitizer, or even for an air conditioning system. Although that may be correct, it may not be correct also, and it's something that people need to carefully look at. Unfortunately, there are some companies out there that don't follow the proper practices. Just because something will kill a virus on a hard surface, such as a tabletop, does not mean that it will kill the virus on upholstery, leather, dashboards, steering wheels, or even into the HVAC system. So a lot of these companies are playing on the fear of people and selling products that possibly will not do the job.
Right. And the wording matters a lot. What terminology that you use in the name of your product and how you describe the way it works.
That is correct. So EPA and the way the product works have very clear identifiers on how you're supposed to word the product, what can be said, and what really works or doesn't work. And in addition to that, it's also how long the product has to be on the surface for it to truly work. So if you take a look at a can of Lysol, I believe it says that the surface has to stay wet for, I believe it's 5 or 10 minutes, but a good amount of time, the surface has to stay wet, which basically means if you're planning on it to kill COVID-19 or hope that it does, you really just need to leave the surface wet for an extended period of time. Now it's easy to do on a hard surface, not necessarily that easy to do in an automobile interior surface without potentially damaging some of the leathers or upholstery inside of the vehicle. And that's something that people should be aware of and pay attention to.
Right, so kind of like they say, you should take the product that you're planning to use and test it in an area that's inconspicuous. So in case it does some damage to it, you're not going to see it.
That is correct. So you want to test it in an area, but you want to leave it wet for a period of time also, and following the instructions. A lot of the products that are out there do a quick misting in the vehicles, and they get a quick wipe down, which is more of just cleaning the vehicle, and that kind of falls under a deodorization process rather than a sanitization, or even for sanitization of viruses. And so just be wary of people marketing that their products kill COVID-19. I'm not saying that there aren't any products out there. I just don't know of any currently registered that work on upholstery inside of a vehicle.
Right.
So one of the important factors to ask for if you're purchasing a sanitization system at the at a dealership or at a detail facility is to ask for the EPA registration number. That EPA registration number should be listed on every container that that company produces and the marketing materials that that company produces. If there is no EPA registration number or they cannot give it to you, then I'd be extremely wary of the product. Once you have the EPA registration number, a quick Google search will provide you with what that product is registered for, what that product kills, and what surfaces it is approved to be used on.
Right. That's good information for consumers to know when they're getting service done on their vehicle.
It's also if you're the shop owner, it's something to make sure if you're buying a product that you can provide the consumer that information, or the person selling you that product, the distributor, has that information readily available. You don't want to be marketing something that is incorrect, as if somebody were to report it or if an EPA person would notice it, the fines can be large.
Right. So going from vehicle sanitizing, that got us talking about the current coronavirus pandemic and how a business like yours is navigating through the current environment, particularly with the government programs that are available.
Yeah, so we noticed in the very beginning at AirSept that problems were arising back in January and February. We had some supply chain issues with products coming in for the products that aren't made in the U.S. And we also have customers overseas. We export our chemical line to China. And we had some of our customers in China asking us to delay some of our export shipments because of some of the issues that we were having there. So we were fortunate to see both sides of how the beginnings of what is now called COVID-19 was affecting businesses even back into January. So when it started affecting the United States, we had firsthand knowledge from a lot of our international customers what they went through in China and even into Taiwan and Malaysia and Singapore and a lot of on the Asian countries. So as the country started shutting down and the government started mentioning some of the programs that they're going to offer to help small businesses, I knew where we were headed to, or I had a feeling where we were headed to. And I spent a lot of time, a lot of nights researching as they were announcing these programs, what they were about, how to apply for them, the documents that would be needed for them. And then I would monitor their websites on a consistent basis to make sure, see when they were up and running. When the SBA said they were going to do the original EIDL program, I would wake up early in the morning and monitor that. I would check it throughout the day. I would look at it into the evening and see is their portal up and running.
How often did it change?
It changed frequently. It led to a lot of false starts. The EIDL portal would crash frequently. It was taken down. You were supposed to upload all your tax documents to it. Basically, what they did is they took the disaster loan relief program. For instance, if your house got destroyed in a hurricane or you had issues, they took that portal and tried to open it up to the entire United States. Basically, the portal is designed for a small impacted area, maybe a city, not the entire United States. And so it was very difficult. It would take 2 hours to upload one document. I would sit there and the little thing would be spinning for literally 2 hours.
Wow, so it just couldn't handle the volume.
It couldn't handle the volume. So we go through this process and we uploaded it. And that was right around March 20th, I want to say. Then on March 29th at 8 p.m. in the evening, the SBA decided this isn't working. The system can't handle it. Documents are all over the place. Everybody's overnighting us stuff to our offices because they can't get their documents uploaded. We're going to change to what I think they call it the Simplified Portal or the Quick Fund Portal. And so on March 29th at 8 p.m., they took the original portal down completely. And without telling anyone, fortunately, once again, I was constantly monitoring. Now I'm looking to see, well, did my upload documents take? Is somebody supposed to respond? On that night, March 29th, I go there and the portal's down. There's no access to it. So I'm thinking to myself, all right, so this government funding, and this was before they announced the payment protection program, or right as they were announcing it. So we're thinking that this is all we have because, as we try to minimize the impact. So we did take some time. On March 30th, I go back on and it's not working. And there's an association in Georgia called the Georgia Manufacturing Association that I'm part of. And it's a group of manufacturers from the Green Egg Company to AirSept to a variety, small and large manufacturing companies that participate in this. And they had a law firm that works with manufacturing and wholesalers. And I sat on a webinar. Unfortunately, they explained that as of the Sunday, the March 29th, I believe it was a Sunday, the portal and anything that you registered for before was going to be basically thrown away. And that is called the old portal. And the new portal, which is their quick payment portal, which was a one-page piece that literally you filled out and you put your bank account information in it, just your company information, your bank account. That was the new portal, and that you would be compensated $10,000 within 72 hours.
Sounds like they should have just started with that in the first place.
It does, but they changed it after that anyways. Again, I should say. So, and I shouldn't say they changed the portal. Once the portal was up and running on the March 30th, that portal stayed the same. But they changed how you were compensated. So small business is supposed to help small businesses. So later that week, well after 72 hours, when nobody received their money, they came and they changed and said, we're going to change it to you're going to receive $1,000 per employee up to 10 employees. And that money is going to be free and forgiven if it's used for payroll or allocated towards payroll. And it will be directly deposited into your account. So, that is right around the same time the payment protection program was being launched also, which was a whole nother set of watching and monitoring. And we all know how well that went with Wells Fargo cutting their customers off. The big difference is the EIDL is directly through the SBA. dealing with it on a national government level, where the payment protection program has to be dealt with on a local level with the local SBA division of your bank.
Okay. What's EIDL stand for?
Economic Injury Disaster Loan.
Oh, okay. So it sounds like you had to do an initial application on the federal government's website, but did you also have to do applications to your local bank?
So for the payment protection program, we had to do that through the local bank. And we were fortunate. We had a good banker. We used Piedmont Bank here in Atlanta, Georgia. And we had a great banker who was on top of it and who got us documents immediately and who followed through, got us the details. And we were fortunate enough to be funded in a very timely manner. So as far as the payment protection program, now, not all people had that experience. The larger the bank, the harder it was for them to facilitate. And even some of the smaller banks had issues facilitating the payment protection program. It's a unique program. It has been run through the SBA division of these banks, and most SBA divisions of these banks do not have the infrastructure or staff to handle a good majority of their customers. They're designed for specifically SBA loans, and they may only have a handful of people dealing with it during normal times.
And now you have basically every small business applying all at one time, and that overloads all the banks, really, not even just the small banks.
Exactly. And then you don't know, and as the government initially ran out of money, they don't know when, whose application is going to get approved or when the money is going to run out.
Right. Right. And a couple of companies, I don't want to say they got nailed, but a couple of companies had to return the money or choose not to accept it when it became public that they had applied because, I don't remember what company it was, but some chain store that, in 2019, they made $42 million. Now they're applying for a $10 million loan. And you got the guy at the local surf shop that can't get $10,000.
Exactly. I think they were shamed into returning the money.
Right. Right. So what effect has the coronavirus had on your business?
So as far as the sales side of our business, it sort of follows the manufacturing on the OE side of the business. As the manufacturers shut down or slow down, that will cause a slowdown on our OE business. As far as the aftermarket goes, it's been doing okay. We haven't had any order cancellations, which is good. All of our aftermarket, all of our large distributors we're receiving reorders. It seems to be business as usual. There hasn't been a significant slowdown on that part of the business at all.
Right. Do you see a slowdown coming with how the auto industry is starting to slow down in general, with a downturn in new vehicle sales, and also a lot of shops are reporting that their car count is down?
So I think if things don't pick up in the next 30 to 45 days, I think we may see a slowdown come July. Traditionally, when we get a lot of reorders, there may be still product left in the pipeline. As a manufacturer, we are more removed from where an installer would purchase parts from. So we don't necessarily get to see the parts moving off the shelf. We can just see how our demand or projections will increase or decrease from our customers. If people don't start taking their cars in for some of the repairs that they do need to have, then yes, I think we'll see an eventual slowdown on the aftermarket side of the business. However, I do think people will eventually get their cars repaired, especially with air conditioning.
Well, how about the employees that work at AirSept? What's going on with them? I mean, I'm sure that they've had to make some changes to their daily routines and habits.
Yes. So as far as our employees go, one of the most important aspects is their health. And it's important to keep your employees healthy while they're in the shop. And it's important to keep the people around the employees healthy, so the people working next to them. So we did implement some strategies regarding this. couple of easy ones. AirSept is now a mask mandatory business. So what I mean by that is everybody has to wear a mask, whether it's a homemade mask or we do provide masks for a lot of people that don't have them or that may not have access to a mask. So every day coming in, you have to have your mask on right when you walk in. We don't let visitors into the building right now. All packages, all shipments, everything has to be dropped either at the front door for mail or things of that nature, or at the loading docks for any shipments and UPS. There is an area boxed off that nobody is allowed to cross. So the freight people can come in and obviously do what they need to do with freight, but they're not allowed into the building at all. And that's just to limit the amount of people coming through for now. Now, as things change, we may adjust that. A couple other things we did on the assembly line, we did create boxes for people to stand in so we can move our warehouse workers where everybody is 6 feet apart. We reorganized our warehouse, moved shelving around, expanded production lines, made them longer so people had more space, or we divided them into two. So we could put spacing between each step so people aren't standing next to each other. So it takes a little longer to assemble some components or make some components on the manufacturing, but it does allow for people to have their personal space and to feel more comfortable and to provide that distance that the CDC recommends.
Right. So Aaron, you're in Georgia, and from what we're hearing, Georgia is going to be the first state that opens the doors to go back to business. Have you heard about how that's going to happen?
So not a lot of how that's going to happen. It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see the effects of it on a long-term basis. I hope that it is successful, obviously, for everyone. That is everybody's hope. We do need to eventually get back to where we were at. Timing, anybody can guess or second guess the timing, and we'll find out on that one. As far as how people are going to do it, I'm not quite sure. We at AirSept are not going to change our practices right now. We are still going to require masks on everybody, or face coverings. We are going to not allow visitors for now. We will still have the 6 feet distancing, and we will still have our areas for freight to where people are not allowed to walk past.
Right.
So outside of AirSept, my wife and I own Indian restaurant called Bojanic, and also a catering company. As far as the Indian restaurant goes, as everyone knows, restaurants are going to open in Georgia on Monday, or you may not know, but they are allowed to open for business on Monday. We do not plan on opening that restaurant. We are not sure how to handle it or what to do with it. One advantage we have, my wife also sits on the National Restaurant Association board. She's on the political action committee there. So we do get a lot of information that way. And she's heavily involved in regards to restaurants and trying to see what we can do with them and get them reopened.
Yeah, because restaurants were one of the first places that were closed down with this whole coronavirus.
They were, and there's a good reason for that. And there's a good reason to hesitate to go back into them. And that's coming from a restaurant owner. It provides, livelihood for our family, part of a livelihood for our family. And it's something to be concerned about. And until you can properly facilitate and handle, it's something to question. A few examples, where at AirSept, we're able to divide everybody, move them 6 feet apart. A restaurant's kitchen is not designed for people to work 6 feet apart. It is designed for them to work 6 inches apart.
Right.
If you're lucky, you can move them 1 foot apart. But there's no way that you can move them 6 feet apart and successfully produce out of a restaurant. Now, with the takeout, it's a little bit different because you can have very limited staff. You don't need all of the staffing there, and it can be run by 1 or 2 people because it's a minimum part of your business. But when it comes to opening up, you have to have servers, you got to have bartenders, you have to have dishwashers, you have to have line cooks and things of that nature, and you just have to have more staffing in there. A couple other questions come into play, and even for AirSept, is sanitization products and gloves. we wear gloves on a regular basis here in our manufacturing facility, even before coronavirus. And now we try to go buy gloves. We can't find gloves. So how do you buy gloves for a restaurant? We try to find Lysol or sanitization products. How do you find sanitization products for restaurants? Do they do they clean the salt shaker? Or is you going to be using the same salt shaker somebody else was using? What about the seat you just sat on? Is that somebody else? People sit in restaurants for a long period of time. They talk sometimes, not to get into it, but they talk with, their mouths open, and, food tends to go places. And, you can't wear a mask while you eat. So, those are a couple things to question. So, while I encourage the openings of the country, and I encourage the openings in Georgia, and I hope they're successful for all of our sake, it is something that needs to be monitored, well watched, and controlled. And that's just, I think the control is the big part. Health departments exist for a reason. If restaurants or barbershops or nail salons or those places actually police themselves, you wouldn't need a health department to oversee them. They wouldn't need licensing. You wouldn't have to have the little health certificate on the wall. You wouldn't have to have any of that stuff. So that's my opinion on that one.
You definitely have a unique viewpoint on it. I mean, being, in manufacturing and in being a restaurateur, I mean, you're on the front lines of the first businesses that got closed down and the backbone of America, right? Manufacturing products that some of the few businesses that are allowed to remain open. So it's a unique viewpoint.
Absolutely. We're very fortunate. We're fortunate that Aricept's able to keep running. We're fortunate that we have great staff. They all abide by the rules. We have meetings every week. We talk with our staff and voice our opinions at Aricept about, make sure our staff is going home and they're being safe and they're not congregating in backyard parties. As we are a family here, and everybody does care about each other. And we do have staff that would be considered in a higher risk group, and we want to do the best we can to protect them.
So for either business, really, have you had to furlough any of your employees?
So the restaurant, we did shut down. So we had to furlough 100% of the employees. We temporarily shut it down, and we were fortunate to have a catering kitchen about 2 miles away from the restaurant. The catering kitchen has about 40 feet of cooking space, double-sided. So it's about a total of 80 feet of cooking space, where the restaurant has 6 feet of cooking space. As the catering kitchen is designed as for mass production of food. So we were fortunate to able to pull that side of the business and just do takeout from the catering kitchen, which limited the total amount of furloughs that we had, as catering is a separate entity. And we did bring some of the restaurant people over there. And so that has helped minimize it, but at the restaurant we did. So at Aricept, we had as an essential business, we determined to stay open. We had a need. Our customers had a need for our products, as we do supply into the trucking industry and into the people that make ambulances or service ambulances and fire trucks and things of that nature. And we had a conversation with all of our employees and to see who was in the very high risk group. So we did some temporary furloughs for some of those people. We did give them their paid time off, extended some paid time, and then after that did give them the opportunity to furlough for a short period of time. We were able to do this as our business, as I mentioned earlier. Our OE business did slow down a little bit. So we were able to let people who had some concerns stay at home during this period. And also some of our employees have children at home who are now being homeschooled and not by choice. And as a father of 2 kids, I can assure you I never chose homeschooling for a reason. and I will not choose homeschooling ever again. So,
Yeah, I hear you with that.
we had to take into account the people's home and, their environments at their home and their children and what they could do. So, we only ended up, people who extended beyond their paid leave and the extended paid leave. There are only 2 people at AirSept that we did put on to furlough. And of those 2 people, they will be coming back here in the next probably 1 week as our business is start picking up a little bit more.
Right. Have you had to take any steps regarding your product that you're shipping out of the building?
So we have, with product coming in and product leaving, we have taken additional steps to protect the people, to protect the shipping and receiving people. When product does get received, however it's coming in, whether it's freight or UPS, FedEx, even Amazon or some of those other companies, couriers, we do, as mentioned, require them to drop it off in the loading dock in the receiving area and not to move beyond that receiving area. We will then, our receiving people put gloves on, and they, they have a mask on already, and they do separate the box. They separate the packaging. If they can remove stuff out of the boxes, they'll do that. Otherwise, they'll decontaminate the boxes, whether they spray it with simple Lysol or a bleach concept or something of that nature. We do try to decontaminate all the product coming in. And that's so as product comes in and we decontaminate it, we just, it puts people a little bit more at ease out in the shipping and receiving area. And also puts everybody, including myself, at ease. I mean, we don't want our first line people, the people that touch the products initially. We don't know who at the sorting centers, if they had any health issues, if the delivery people had any health issues. We can only just control our environment inside of our walls.
Yeah, because it's really a total unknown. You don't know where it's been, who's touched it, and we really don't know how long the virus lives on cardboard or packing tape or pieces of paper or plastics. And some of your products are packaged in clamshells and they have cardboard in them. They have instruction sheets. Some are aluminum, some are rubber. And we don't know how long the virus, if it can live there, and for how long.
That is exactly right. And so whenever we can, we'll also let product sit for 24 hours. So if product comes in and it can be moved, if it's a pallet that doesn't need to be, after inspection, obviously we visibly inspect our pallets. If they're damaged on the outside, we have to get into it to figure out. But if everything matches up and everything looks good, we'll try to move pallets or our daily box shipments to let them sit for a minimum of 24 hours. Whether that does any good or not, I'm not quite sure. I'm not a scientist or work for the CDC, but I feel 24 to 48 hours is probably a sufficient time. One of the other things that we did here, and one of our big business moves that we'll probably keep, is our production facility. We did shift to 4-day production, 10-hour days. And so that allows our people to, first of all, get an extra day at home. It's been well received in the production facility. And it gives us flexibility to add that 5th day for overtime rather than going into Saturdays or Sundays, which we traditionally do during the summertime.
Right. I used to work 410s, and I'll tell you, it was the best job. Well, it was a good job.
It is something that will come out of it. It's something that for some reason we just never did. We never looked at. And we've noticed productivity up. It allows for things to reset. Any maintenance we can do on Fridays now without having people to come in Saturdays and Sundays. And it's just helping provide a better overall quality of life for a lot of the people that work here.
Wow. Wow, that's awesome. And I'm sure that they appreciate that too.
Well, yeah, we all appreciate it. It's helped us all out.
Yeah. So you already applied for the PPP program and got approved, but did you get the money yet?
Yes, we did. So we were fortunate. We were funded within 4 days after submitting our final application.
So after you get funded, what are the rules for using that money?
So I think that's more difficult than receiving the funds, is trying to figure out what the rules are. It is 100% forgivable on the payment protection program. All the funds is 100% forgivable, assuming that it's used for your payroll. But there are more rules involved with that. So there's rules where it's almost 100% forgivable because certain taxes on your payroll are not forgivable. So you'll be paying for those anyways. You have to allocate at least 75% towards your payroll, which is a requirement. Now at AirSept, we didn't furlough a lot of people, so that's easy to do. We can allocate that. Probably almost 100% of it will go towards payroll to help keep people moving and help keep people employed. But for other companies that are shut down or that may have seen a significant drop in business, they may not be able to allocate at least 75 to it because they don't have the employee headcount. And you just can't simply give a big bonus to the company, executives or to the owner of the small business. If you have 3 or 4 employees and you're down to just you, an individual, you can't just, bonus yourself out all that money because you have to maintain a head count as a requirement, or what is forgiven starts being reduced. So I would just, tell people to, create a little spreadsheet and figure out what they're spending the money on. Certain fund after the 75%, certain amount can go towards utilities like power or gas or water. If you rent a place, it can go towards your rent for the facility, but that's after the 75% is allocated towards payroll and after you have met the employee headcount requirement.
So you have to keep a lot of documentation along with that.
Yeah, you have to keep documentation. You have dates in which to spend it. You only have 8 weeks in which to spend the money. So if you have 8 weeks and you don't see yourself getting back up to the employee headcount, you need to factor that into it. Because whatever part is not forgiven just becomes a 2-year loan, a very low interest 2-year loan. So you have to be very careful. If you get $25,000 and $20,000 of it is not forgiven, you basically have a 2-year loan, that you owe the government back on. I ask myself this question: would I go out and buy a $20,000 car on a 2-year loan? And if the answer is yes, then you feel comfortable making those payments over 2 years. If the answer is no, then you need to ask yourself, I need to be careful spending this money, and just because I have it, it's not to be spent. It needs to be spent wisely. Now, if there's nothing preventing you from taking that money and investing it into the future of your business. Obviously, if your business isn't around, that's not going to help anyone either. So you just need to determine, what your return on it is. Can you pay it back in the manner or in the time of which it's required if it's not all forgiven?
Right. Yeah, because I heard that some businesses were able to get the loans, and because they're non-essential, they're not reopening, but they're using that money to still pay their employees. They're just paying them to stay at home.
So that is a very good point, and that is what the program is designed for. It's designed to continue to pay your employees and for as long as you possibly can, and to help your employees. And so if you're paying your employees, even though they're not coming in, or maybe they're coming in and helping do other stuff, that's fantastic. And that's what I would, that's what it's for and encouraged to be used for. You just want to make sure that part of it doesn't go towards rent, or it doesn't go towards other expenses that may have built up during the shutdown time period, and expect it to be forgiven. And that's the big thing. Just go in knowing what is going to be forgiven and what is just going to become a 2-year loan.
Right. Because either way, you're responsible for it. So
exactly. It might not be personally guaranteed, but the SBA will go after the money from the business. I would think they would.
Yeah. Yeah. The government will get its money back one way or another.
I would think so eventually.
Yeah. Right. Has there been any unexpected side effects to the slowdown that we're going through?
That's a very good question, and there have been. One of the benefits that this has provided us is time to focus on products that we had stuck in development. I don't know if stuck is the best word, but they've been stalled in development. As you know, Aricept is a development company, and at any given time, we may have 10 to 15 products, either in the beginning stages of development, middle, going through validation, or just that are completed and waiting to be added to the product line. During the slowdown, it has allowed our engineers time to take products that have been completed validation, to finish reporting, to get items into purchasing, to move our CAD drawers and our purchasing people, to get part numbers assigned for parts, and for us to get products ordered and to get ready to launch products as the markets start picking back up. And that's been beneficial. We're probably going to come out in June. We'll probably not only be able to announce, but actually launch 2 to 4 products with inventory ready to go. We have a new updated recycle guard coming out. So
that's cool.
Yep, it'll handle both the high and low side. It's a little bit more refined than the dual automatic recycle guard. Much easier to use than the dual automatic recycle guard. We have kits that will be with it. It's universal, so it'll work for 1234YF or 134A. Just have to switch the hoses and the adapters that go on it. So we'll have both sets for it.
So it'll be one recycle guard for both refrigerants.
It'll filter both refrigerants. Now, obviously, you're going to want to change your hoses, and the quick connects that are on the recycle guard will change. So you'll have an accessory kit that will go with it. So you can put the adapters onto the recycle guard to adapt for a 1234YF system, or you switch the adapters for a 134A system.
Wow, that's pretty cool, because that's one of your most popular products with our members.
It is. It's a very popular product. This product has been around for many years, and there's still a big demand for the product. Sealants are not going away. They're more and more prevalent. The damage they can cause is still out there. Now, some sealant technology has changed, but machines are still susceptible to sealant damage. I mean, not just sealant, debris, excessive oils and dyes and other contaminants in the system that come out, the recycle guard will capture and prevent from entering your machine.
Right. So what do you think is going to happen going forward with shops and businesses in general?
So I think this is going to drastically change how businesses operate. I think businesses, just as Aricept is realizing a lot of benefits from some of our changes that we've made, I think businesses, and much larger businesses than us, will realize that video conferencing can be a successful way to conduct business. People will get their information. I think it will bring podcasts and live chats and online video conferencing to a much broader audience, which is, I think, a very big benefit. Companies will realize the benefits of it. The individuals will realize the benefits of it. And it's to a newer audience. Maybe people in their 20s may be used to it, or definitely people in their schools have grown up with computers. I've referenced my children before. They've had computers or laptops since they were in 3rd grade, I believe. So my son's graduating. Wow. My son's graduating this year, and my daughter's in 9th grade. So they're very efficient at computers. When I help them and I take out a piece of paper and a pen to write notes down, they both look at me. So they don't know what it's used for. So that is, wow. And it's brought the realization that the, other people, the 40-year-olds, 50, 60, that age frame is getting used to utilizing a lot of this technology and seeing the benefits of it and learning how to use it and appreciating it.
Right. Well, that's about all the time we have for right now. Aaron, I'd like to thank you for hanging out with me today on this live chat and for all that you do for our industry and MACS member shops.
Thanks, Steve. I'm glad I can do this, and I'd like to thank MACS for their time also, and hopefully the members are able to pick up on some good information.
Me too, and I'm sure that they appreciate your time and your insights, and hopefully it can help them with their business. Well, that wraps it up for this MACS Live Chat. I'd like to thank you all for joining us today. If you'd like to get more information about AirSept and their products that can help you in your shop, you can find more information on their website at www.airsept.com. And of course, we'd like to thank you for your continued membership with MACS. To find out all that your association has to offer, including our affinity programs designed to save your shop money, please visit our website at www.maxw.org. Thanks again for joining us. My name is Steve Schaeber, and we'll see you next time.